Hold up. Sit down.
Hello, lovely people. My name is Alex Rose, and today I'm going to show you how to make a G-House confession style drop. This is the way I like to do it. Focusing on using percussion first, then going into the drop. So going into your drop synth. It's very typical now for people to think, and for new producers to think, that they need to start with the synth and the bass line before they get deep into the percussion. I would argue that it's almost the last thing you should do. It gets much easier to make the groove first. So the first thing we're going to do is just throw this down to 126, whatever your preferred BPM is. This is just what we're going to do for this example. We're just going to focus on the first 8 bars. It's also a possibility to, include a build-up if it inspires you. I know that's something that a lot of people like to do, and we're just going to run into Casimir Pack and get a kick to great. So now we just have simple kick 4 to the floor. First thing we want to do is throw in claps. So you can use any claps, and this is if you listen to Tchami or that kind of artist, they really use whatever type of clap sounds good. So you don't necessarily need to adhere to this is a regular clap, this is a deep house clap, or whatever sounds nice. So I've even found that trap claps can sound good if they're smaller, like this one. They can be good. For this, I'll just look in the regular claps. And anything that sounds different, like, you can be super creative with your percussion in this genre. So feel free to do that. And we're just going to throw on every other. So now we have this. Gonna make sure the kick is peaking at -6 dB. And we're just gonna set up a bus right now. Not drum, bass, drum, bus. And basically what we're going to do is route everything that's not a kick into that drum bus, and I'll show you a little bit more about that later. Next we need other types of percussion. For this, I'm actually going to go into a 909 kick. The reason I do this is because the 909 is the analog drum machine that has, I guess, that more machine sound you want when you're doing G-House. So that is what we're going to use for the rest of the percussion. I don't use the claps in this because I don't know, they just sound weird to me. I prefer the more not synthesized, but the more sampled claps. But I do really like the hats from this. So we're gonna find some hats. I use this one all the time. So I want like a smaller one and a larger, more played out one. And we're gonna grab classic open. I feel like using this one. For these hats, we can put them all on the same guy here. We don't want them on 2, we want them on 4. Because 2 will be our bus. And right now we'll just do this. Route the tracks so that we don't have to do it later. Okay. So we know that this is the open hat. So we're going to put it on the offbeat. Pretty much everything we do for this beginning part will be in the pattern, and then once we start getting it more complex, we'll start going into the playlist, and I'll show you different tips for how to organize your drop. So the next thing we're going to do is just try and fill the space. We know this one's kind of a longer one, so it'll sound nice if we ever think that the open hat should double tap when it's on the offbeat. So that sounds good, and now we're just going to find somewhere else to put these little hats. That. I'm going to put the hats that are not regular one on a different channel, just so that they can pop out somewhere. So now that we have quite a lot of percussion laid out, we're going to put the sausage fattener on it. You can use any saturator for this. I actually use this more for the compression that's on the color knob. I think it just brings out kind of equalizes all the different percussion you got going on. So typically I'll put just a tiny bit of fatness, maybe that much, and then like crank this up a lot. And this will add a lot of gain, so just lower it back down. Now we're going to just find some more places to put other types of percussion. So we could again look through the 909 some more, but I find, like I said before, it sounds a little weird. See, like even the snares and stuff sound very bizarre. So I'd recommend looking through other places. The Cashmere Pack's still good for this type of thing. I find like even like the trap snares can even sound good for additive percussion in this, which is a little weird. You wouldn't think that. And again, we're just going to route this into the B. So I kind of have a thing in my mind where I hear dun 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 dun. And I hear like this coming back down on it. So I think that sounds good. Like it can be pretty much any groove, and it doesn't need to sound like the most amazing percussion you've ever heard. But make sure you leave some room within this percussion, because you notice that there still are quite a few gaps and stuff that we could fill. Like we could do this. It doesn't sound too busy doing that. Like that change sounded okay, but just make sure you don't fill up literally everything, because you'll need still some room to put in your bass or whatever. But I'm pretty comfortable with the way that this is sounding now. So we'll actually double this up, and then here's the trick to make your percussion sound more interesting than just having the clap and kick in the first half of your drop. Get rid of the open hi-hats on the offbeat. I've noticed Tchami does this all the time. He'll keep in the additive percussion because it maintains the swing and groove of the main drop that he's looking for. For now, we're not going to use that pattern just because we don't want it to interfere with the bass that we put in. So here's where F. So we want to inject a little bit more swing here. So I'm imagining. Anyways, that's good enough for now. We will throw that. So that's in here, and we'll just repeat that. And now we'll replace this first pattern with the old one without the. And we could add, more bass synths. Typically, that's what I do. Is to give yourself some more style in G House when there's so many people doing similar things. You can find lots of presets that are similar to this one. My favorite one actually comes from a cymatics pack, which is this honky tonky bass. It's kind of like a bass house screechy type thing. And usually what I do is whenever like the main hit isn't going down, and of course most importantly we're also going to set up a bass bus that we're going to route the basses into. And then this bass bus is going to also have a sausage fattener on, so we can just grab it from our drum bus. This sausage fattener, I'm probably going to tone down the color on. Let's just see how it sounds. And we're going to throw a parametric EQ on the 1. We're going to put the steep to 6, put a high pass, and the reason we're doing this is to cut out the sub frequency so that we can add in 3x oscillator. Now 3x oscillator, drop down the coarse pitch. This is just so that the two higher ones aren't making any octaved pitches above the main sub, and then this I think turns down their level. I'm not totally sure, but that way you only have the top one as the only thing that's playing any sound, and you're just going to throw the MIDI from your main bass synth there and drop it down to the third octave, as this is where the sub bass is the strongest. On the sub bass, we're going to add an instance of kickstart, sub bass chain, and kickstart. This can keep the regular punch. So now we have this. We're going to add in some more notes for this guy. And that should be duplicated. Again. I think that's the same. And for a very quick master, we're going to throw on Isotope's Ozone, and I have a master preset for this. You can make your own master from finding stuff online. So there you go. That's it's not too difficult to make a G house style, confession style drop. Like obviously you would add some different rap chants and fills in here, maybe some more additive synths, a little bit more kind of atmosphere percussion, downlifters, all that kind of jazz. But the basic simple building blocks to this genre is just that percussion. So follow along with that first step, and then with the second step for the basses, be creative with the different basses that you choose. So you can get really creative with the sound design. Here's a couple of the different synths I've made. So if we play this, sounds a bit too much. It's almost a little bit too much like dubstep for this, but get really creative, because that's the whole purpose of this type of genre. So for instance, if we go into just the basses that we have from different cymatics packs and stuff, and they give it all for free, so it's not hard to get creative, find all these different types of things. Like I could see doing a bunch of creative stuff with that type of one, or a lot of different things. For me, like I usually see this Malaa bass, this Malaa style bass, which there's tons of tutorials on. So usually have like at least 3 synths going. Your main driver is that kind of Malaa low analog style bass, and then some additive ones that are more in your style, and that's what's going to make you different in this genre, as well as some of the other effects and stuff you use. Really take ownership of your music, and this is really the forefront of EDM. I think this is the most creative genre, so really take a lot of inspiration from other genres as well, because that's what G house and bass house is all about. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back with another tutorial.